word, they would tell you that retirement is all about income. Income in retirement is a permission slip to enjoy life. Income provides the freedom to spend money each month knowing that more will arrive next month and the month after that. As important as it is to accumulate assets for your retirement, it's equally, if not more important, to maximize the income being generated from your assets. My name is Jerry Doherty, and my radio program, Making Money Last, has been heard right here on WCRN. Well, do you know if your retirement income is as high as it could be? Are you living off less than you should be? Well, I'd like to offer you a complimentary review to answer that very question. Simply call my office at 877-772-1776. I'm conveniently located right on Route 9 in Westboro. Again, my number is 877-772-1776. Let's increase your income today.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 drive Ed. Who's Ed?
That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoschool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
The following is a paid program. The opinions are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
You're about to undertake a 2-hour experience of eye-opening, mind-expanding, revealing common sense discussion for the common sense citizen. Strap yourself in, put your trays in the upright position, remove dentures and loose jewelry, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and come along for the ride. It is time for the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN 830, and our affiliates and streaming on the TuneIn app. It's Joe time, baby.
Caller, do you hear me? I don't think they actually know it because I probably wasn't in addition. Call back at 508-871-7000. I'm sorry, that was my fault because I didn't have the button down that actually lets them hear me. So that was the problem there, folks. Anyway, getting back to the pandemic situation. All right, so 36 cases, spontaneous miscarriage and stillbirths occurring after the COVID-19 virus is given. And that's pretty scary stuff right there. But let me try that again. Caller, do you hear me? Good morning. Caller. Hello? Caller, do you hear me? Everything's in place. You should be hearing me. Nope. All right. Anyway. All right. So 34 cases of pregnant women experienced spontaneous miscarriages or stillbirths after receiving COVID-19 vaccine have been submitted to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. That's the VARS. You might have heard VARS mentioned in the past. And the VARS is a system that was set up for after vaccinations. It's run by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. So what that is it tracks the information after vaccines help. We'll try this one more time. Good morning and welcome to the show. Do you actually hear me? Good morning. Hello? Caller, you're there. I don't know why they're actually not hearing me on this. I'm sorry, folks. Anyway, continuing with this, a lot of people are very leery about these vaccinations. A lot of people were leery about vaccinations long before COVID-19. How many of you in this audience listening didn't or wouldn't take the flu vaccine because you just didn't like the idea of putting something in your body? Where I stand on this is I'd be open to taking a Johnson & Johnson, because the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is kind of the traditional vaccines that we do, where they take a dead virus cell and they put it into your system, causing your defensive systems and white blood cells to attack that, and then create a, basically antigens, antibodies to go after that. And your body, it tricks your body into fighting the disease as if it came into your body. But these Moderna ones and the Pfizer ones that are using the mRNA or RMNA thing, this is very different, based on what I understand. And if somebody's out there that's too bad that's what I went to tell you, by the way. So Michael Beatrice can't join us today, so we'll have him on another day. And he has all the research and information that we would want from his book, COVID-19 Lockdowns and Trials. So he would know this better than me, but my understanding on this is that, caller, do you hear me, by the way? Anyway, my understanding on this is that it goes after the DNA of the virus, and it tells your system to attack that cell in the DNA. The idea of it starting to mess with DNA on any level doesn't sit well with me. So I would be more partial to the Johnson & Johnson, which is a very traditional type of virus, right? Or excuse me, a vaccine that just kind of goes after that. 508-871-7000. Caller, are you there? Good morning. Good morning. Caller, are you there? All right. Obviously, that's my fault. I'm not hitting the right button somewhere, folks. My apologies to that. But try it again, 508-871-7000. So many cases of spontaneous miscarriages have occurred in the first trimester or the first 12 weeks of the pregnancy, with 25 occurrences after being immunized by Pfizer, the BioNTech vaccine, while 4 cases of stillborn occurred after the second, that's like 13 to 27 weeks, or third trimester. Now, the report made to Verse does not necessarily mean that the vaccine caused in the event a reaction or miscarriages are labeled as spontaneous abortions or abortions in the reporting program. And there are people who've gotten sick. But what are the numbers? Does it outweigh it? Has anybody who hasn't gotten the vaccine yet, and do you plan to, or are you waiting for herd to reach to mass concentration of both those that have had COVID, herd immunity is reached, and in theory it's safe to walk around out in public, right? That's the whole principle behind herd immunity. So the question becomes, are you going to bother getting one? And if you have to still wear the mask, do you bother getting it? And I think that's what Rand Paul was trying to make a point about it, is why are we going to go through all this if you're not going to, in fact, be able to not wear a mask and go wherever you want? So Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci
shows significant reinfection, hospitalization, and death after either natural infection or the vaccine. It doesn't exist. There is no evidence that there are significant reinfections after vaccine. In fact, I don't think we have a hospitalization in the United States after the 2-week period after the second vaccination. We don't have a death in the United States.
You're not hearing what I'm saying about variants. We're talking about wild type versus variants.
And what proof is there that there are significant reinfections with hospitalizations and death from the variants? None in our country. Zero.
Well, because we don't have a prevalent of a variant yet. We're having one. Can I finish? We're having 117 that's becoming more dominant.
Your policy based on conjecture.
No, it isn't based on conjecture.
Variants, so you want people to wear a mask for another couple years.
No.
You've been vaccinated and you parade around in 2 masks for show.
No.
You can't get it again. There's virtually 0% chance you're going to get it, and yet you're telling people that have had the vaccine, who have immunity. You're defying everything we know about immunity by telling people to wear a mask who've been vaccinated. No. Instead, you should be saying there is no science to say we're going to have a problem from the large number of people being vaccinated. You want to get rid of vaccine hesitancy? Tell them they can quit wearing their mask after they get the vaccine. Okay. You want people to get the vaccine? Give them a reward instead of telling them that the nanny state's going to be there for 3 more years and you got to wear a mask forever. People don't want to hear it. There's no science behind it.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Masks are protective, and we
have immunity there, theater. If you already have immunity, you're wearing a mask to give comfort to others. You're not wearing a mask because of any science.
I totally disagree with you.
So you know, Vladimir.
So I totally disagree with you. And Rand Paul saying it is for theater. And if getting the vaccine and everybody's walking around for the most part with it, why do we need to wear the mask? Now, both of them are physicians, and one could argue that, Dr. Fauci is more of an administrator than a physician, and is he really in a position to be talking opposed to, the doctors who are out there every day actually treating these patients and applying treatment for them. And, of course, he's also Dr. Rand Paul, is an ophthalmologist, and he isn't treating patients for COVID-19 at all. But they're both scientists. And Rand Paul seems to have one heap of an amount of common sense. And like his father, he seems to inherently want to look out after us, their constituency, American citizens. So in Michigan, there was a 35-year-old woman who's 28 weeks and 5 days pregnant and said that the baby's movement decreased 2 days after her first Pfizer vaccine. And this was in December. And the woman delivered a stillborn baby weighing only 2 pounds and 7 ounces at 29 weeks. She was being closely monitored for an umbilical cord abnormality, which, wraps around the necks and so forth. Pfizer and Moderna didn't immediately respond to requests from the media there, but in addition, the FDA didn't immediately reply to inquiries on whether the regulatory agency will be looking into these virus reports. The FDA spokesman did say in an email that their subject matter experts working with vaccines are quite busy at the moment. So I guess I'm asking in general, what is your comfort level on the vaccines? Now, looking at the big picture here, President Biden is going out there, and he seems to be taking credit for a lot of what's happening with the vaccines. And he talks about the distribution. Let's remember something. Operation Warp Speed is responsible for where we are today. Don't make any mistakes about that. And I know it's natural for the opposing party, the Democrats in this case, to want to take credit for what's happening right now. The strong economy that's rumbling under the surface and is starting to bust through, especially in those communities which happen to be red states like Florida, Texas, that have handled their pandemic and the mask wearing on a very different level, different way. But when we look at the charts, and if you compare across the country, and then you compare states that had very different policies on handling it, the spikes in the chart are almost similar, or almost exact, but very similar, whether or not there was a mask mandate in or not. And we saw the taper off in the summer, and in the fall, right? We had a spike into the holidays, but since then, and since we've gotten into 2021, it's fallen off, like falling off a cliff, right? We've gone down huge in the number of cases. But the concept of the whole Operation Warp Speed was taking someone who happened to be Donald Trump, an outsider who does not work on the level and the speed of the swamp, and is used to solving problems and getting things done in the private sector because that's how you survive. You fix it and move on, or you die, business-wise. And so what is it that, where are the reporters that are going to down in Mar-a-Lago and talking to former President Trump and asking him, what were you thinking, and how'd you come up with, and what made you think of doing the things you did with this? And that was ordering, at one point, 800 million vials of the vaccination. Now, Joe Biden wants to try to convince you that he inherited empty shelves and nothing going on. Remember, him and Kamala Harris took the virus before they were running things. Where does he think that that vaccine came from? And Donald Trump had the military all set up for the distribution. But the actual part of the distribution didn't come into play while he was still in office. So hundreds of millions of doses were made. He told these companies that they have to get it done. And some of the issues, by the way, were not whether or not they could do it. It was, or knew what the vaccine was. It was that they didn't have the man hours. They didn't have the equipment. They weren't able to produce at that level. And for the first time, we saw these pharmaceutical companies working together, figuring it out, saying, fine, we have the production facilities. We can ramp up your vaccine with our people in our facility. And he ordered it whether or not it was going to work, because he knew what was important, not whining to American people about wearing a mask and that will solve it, because it wasn't going to. What was going to solve it is vaccines into people's arms and allowing businesses to reopen and life to get back to pre-pandemic. But we have multiple fronts we're attacked on. Governors who refuse to allow businesses to open. There are people in jail right now for trying to run their business while real true criminals are walking the street. As a result of the year that, 2020, that was messed up across the board, right? The year that we saw bail go away. We saw DAs deciding not to prosecute for crimes of theft under a certain amount of money, which put a target on small businesses. It said that you can go shoplift, steal, blatantly steal, and walk out, and they're not going to arrest you. So why run? If you go in and you steal $100 worth of stuff from a store, they're not going to arrest you. We have DAs who don't consider that worth enforcing. So what are businesses supposed to do? They can't call the police if you go and steal $99 worth of stuff. You won't be arrested. So you got to, write that off? Absorb that cost? Pass it on to the people who actually pay? Or do you have to invest in private security? Where's that going to go? It's pretty crazy stuff when you think about it. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. Now, the thing here is the virus surge in Europe should be a cautionary tale for us, though. So as optimism is, spreading through the U.S. and deaths plummet, and states are starting to ease restrictions. Well, thank God, businesses are. But don't forget, even though businesses are starting open, there are many businesses, a lot of them, those small family businesses, because those big chain stores and box stores, right? They were never forced to close. And we'll tie that in because later in the show we're going to talk about the border and what's really going on when it comes to the money involved here and the donations and the $1.9 trillion and how that plays into it. But across America, dread is setting in with another wave of infections that are closing schools and cafes and new lockdowns in Europe. The pandemic's diverging paths on the two continents can be linked in part to the much more successful vaccine that rolled out here in the U.S. And now they're saying, there's this more contagious variant. And the media likes to tell you that the contagious variant. But understand that the vaccines are working on this variant. And what Fauci's trying to say to Rand Paul is that something might happen. That there might be a variant, that it doesn't work. So we have to wear 2 masks. 3 are better. And common sense says to you, so you want us to mask up just in case something happens. On that logic, there could be a deadly strain of some kind of virus or flu that happens sometime down the road. So we should be in protective gear all the time for the rest of our lives? And how much discussion has there been about the adverse conditions of wearing a mask all the time? That breathing that CO2. It's not healthy to do that. You're putting something over your mouth in your nose, and you're breathing back in what you're expelling from your lungs, which is supposed to get out into the world where it can be cleansed and recycled by our plants and trees, right? This is how the planet works. So there are bad down points of wearing a mask all the time, but nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. But there are some key numbers that scientists watch to track pandemics. Joe Biden and his administration's goal was to get the country closer to normal by the 4th of July. Remember when he told us that? But doesn't that kind of tell you he might be a little bit out of touch? Because we've been kind of gathering with our family in our homes, whether it's inside or cooking out on the barbecue already. I don't know about you, but just that presentation that Uncle Joe, Big Brother, might let us be good little kiddies and have our friends over and our families over for 4th of July and have a burger. I mean, the irony of it being the 4th of July when he's talking about such restrictions on our freedoms. There's a variety of metrics that could indicate the country is getting the pandemic under control, including the number of new daily cases and the number of deaths. All right, but we have to take a break here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show. So let me make sure that we are good to go. And do we have it? Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and you might have picked up on the fact that I've recently moved and was taking the time to purge the clutter and freshen up some of the furniture and decor. And there is no better item to freshen up than your bed. That's right, your bed is the most important piece of furniture you have. After all, you spend more than a third of your life on it. I checked out the huge, once family-owned stores with tens of thousands of square feet of showroom and warehouses and movie theaters and food courts and shows and the overhead that goes with them. But then I discovered a true family-owned shop. John Rosenfeld and his son have a small showroom and warehouse right in Metro West, 50 Main Street, Ashland. John and his family are actually there in person. They do keep hours, but will meet you by appointment. That's right. John will meet you when it's convenient for you. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own and a power base that moved the head and feet, but then I met John and checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com and ended up with a better mattress and power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Box Drop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts and buys directly from the manufacturer with low overhead and just family employees, passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9309. That's 508-579-9309. And find John on Facebook at boxdropmiddlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers one-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoschool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 Drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
It's time to go out with Joe.
Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe, brought to you by Nothing But Cakes, White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and this week we thought we'd take a look at the Massachusetts social distancing and capacity limits. See, they require face coverings for all customers and workers at all times, except where an individual is unable to wear a face covering due to medical conditions or disability. Customers may only remove face coverings in the actual act of eating and drinking. See, the face coverings are required at all other times while seated at tables and when the waitstaff person is present at the table. While indoor table service is permitted, restaurants are encouraged to structure operations to operate as much as possible through outdoor table service and to strictly limit indoor table service in order to assure effective compliance with social distancing requirements and to limit activities within confined spaces. Now, seated table service must be limited for each party to only 90 minutes or less. Restaurants must comply with the following sector-specific social distancing rules for providing dining services in all customer seating areas. First, tables must be positioned so to maintain at least 6-foot distance from all other tables and any high-foot traffic areas, so that would be routes to the bathroom, entrances, and exits. Tables may be positioned closer if separated by protective non-porous barriers, that would be a structure wall or plexiglass dividers, and not less than 6 feet installed between tables and high-foot
traffic areas. Now, the size of the party seated at a table cannot exceed 6 persons. Customers should be encouraged to only dine with members of the same household. How they encourage that, we don't know, but they should encourage it. Bar seating is permitted, provided that there are no active work areas or working staff behind the bar for at least 6 feet. There is a physical barrier, we're back to that plexiglass, separating customers from the bar space that is at least 30 inches high. And a gap opening at the bottom of the barrier is allowed because you got to put the food and drink through that, but that gap opening cannot be more than 8 inches high. Subject to any applicable building and fire code requirements, bar areas may be reconfigured to accommodate table seating that complies with all spacing and other requirements in these COVID-19 safety standards. Tables must not be placed within 6 feet of the staffing bartending area, and all customers must be seated. Eat-in service to standing customers that's around the barriers is prohibited. And restaurants may provide carry-out or delivery service, but all safety standards for table separation, size of party, and hygiene must be maintained for any indoor-outdoor table seating that is available to carry out patrons. Restaurants should stagger work schedules and staff meal and break times, regulating maximum number of people in one place and ensuring at least 6 feet of physical distance. All these regulations and guidelines can be found on this post at outwithjoe.com. It contains what I just shared with you, as well as a few more, so it's worth taking a read and using as a reference before headed out to dine here in the Commonwealth. We have suspended the Music Minute for the time being for obvious reasons, but follow us on our social media platforms at Out With Joe. Out With Joe has been brought to you by Nothing Bun Cakes in White City Plaza, Shrewsbury, on Facebook at Nothing Bun Cakes Shrewsbury. Have you heard of the hottest new bakery around? I know you heard about it right here. My friend Al has opened Nothing Bundt Cake in the White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. Nothing Bundt Cake is a bakery chain and is locally owned and operated by my friend Al. They have bundt cakes ranging from bite-sized to tiered, plus platters, candles, and cards. For any occasion, function, or just to have around the house or office, stop by and check them out. Everything is baked from scratch and on site. Nothing beats a sweet surprise. And until you try one of Al's bundt cakes, you haven't tried a real bundt cake. Stop by and ask for Al. Tell him Joe told you to stop by. 98 Boston Turnpike, White City Plaza, near Planet Fitness, Shrewsbury, and on Facebook as well, Nothing Bundt Cake Shrewsbury.
To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the second half of the first hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830, WCRN, and, of course, our affiliate stations, as well as live streaming on the TuneIn app. And you can follow us on TuneIn by just punching WCRN into the TuneIn app, and you're set to go, man. That's it. All set to go. That's all you have to do. We also have our text line. Our text line is 617-297-8388 as we broadcast from the Boxstrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet. So that's pretty good stuff there. All right, 508-871-7000. Let's try to go to the phones. Good morning, caller.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, you there. Who is this?
Yes, this is Ken from Bolton.
Ken from Bolton. All right, we had a little trouble with the phones. I'll be honest with you. I didn't push one button on this massive board, Ken, but we're okay now. All right, what's on your mind, sir?
Well, in a sea of bad news, I thought I would give a 3 cheers to 2 people who were on our side this week.
Oh, yeah?
Rand Paul and Ron DeSantis.
Well, I think those two are actually on our side all the time. And as I was saying, I mean, seeing Rand Paul go at it with Dr. Fauci, he was asking the questions, Ken, I think that we all were thinking. Of course, we don't have access to Dr. Fauci, do we? So we need people like Fauci to do that. And then he went on Carlson Tucker, right? And he explained a little further. I think I have that clip.
Lie. He's lying to you because he doesn't think we're smart enough to make decisions. His fear is that if the vaccinated quit wearing the mask, the unvaccinated will say, what the hell, I'm not wearing a mask either. Right. So he lies to you to say, oh, the mask makes a difference, when in reality he knows better.
All for theater. And he really couldn't answer that, Ken, do you think?
No, he couldn't at all, because that's the game he plays. Is he's an attention whore. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. But
yeah, I know what you mean, though. He is, right. And he is. I mean, the guy is and I'm going to say this because this is what I understand it to be, but I didn't go factually check it out. He is either the highest paid federal employee or one of the highest federal employees.
Yes, that's what I've heard. He's being paid more than the president, so
Yeah.
he thinks he's more important.
So, I mean, that's pretty crazy, and I understand that somebody like, an MD in charge of the, the vaccines and illnesses for the country should have a good living, should be paid well. But I think it's time for him to go play some golf at this point.
No, he's 80 years old.
Yeah, and
but then again, this is his, life's ambition to control the world, tell them what to do, how to wake up, and how to live your life.
It's crazy.
And he says it in such a calm fashion. I guess we're hypnotized by him. At least that's the way the media treats him.
Well, the media is certainly hypnotized because if you dare question him, you are. Well, you're all kinds of names. I mean, you're unpatriotic. You're racist. You're a horrible person to even question him. Yet, other physicians that studied the same science he did, have the same degree or equal to, or even better than he does, they can't be taken seriously because maybe they were on the wrong network, right? Maybe the wrong network asked that particular expert what the deal was. And because they're on that network, they're like everybody on that network, just a bunch of smelly Walmart racists.
Well, you might be describing doctors who actually treat patients.
Yeah, exactly.
Who hasn't for decades.
Like Dr. Siegel, right? Dr. Siegel is actually a practicing doctor who has been doing hydrochloroquine to his patients, who actually sees patients on a daily basis and is saving lives. And he disagrees with Dr. Fauci on a lot of fronts, but he's not supposed to be taken as a legit doctor because he doesn't agree with the narrative. But this is happening across the board, Ken, right? If no matter whether we're talking about COVID-19 or the border issue or the $1.9 trillion, and even everything. I'm going to get in today a little bit on some of these. Did you know that there are universities that have segregation on campuses, and they're having multiple graduations based on everything from sexual orientation to your income level?
Absolutely. I chewed out my alumni who were segregating dorms based on race.
What would Martin Luther King say today? We're no longer colorblind. We're no longer concerned with the quality of our content, but the color of our skin now is the issue. And everybody, Asian, blacks, Latinos, LGBTQI+, are all allowed to have their own orientations and graduations and dorms and rec areas. So what we're doing, Ken, is we're sending our children off to college. So from orientation, literally where they have orientations based on where you fall into these categories, all through school and then at graduation. How does that prepare them for the real world? Because that's not what's happening. Or is it going to be what's happening eventually? And everybody can do that except the white students. The white students can't say this is a white dormitory. They can't segregate. They're the only ones not allowed to. And before I get the texts and the messages, I am not sitting here speaking on behalf of white supremacists or segregation. I'm pointing out what is happening on campuses, what the deal is on campuses. I don't like the idea of separate graduations. I don't like the idea of separate orientations. That implies that what we need to tell you about our campus and our college or our university is different if you're Asian, white, black, Latino. Is that the case?
That's what the power brokers of today believe in, and they're trying their best to tear the nation apart by creating this chaos.
True.
And then the other example is the Ron DeSantis, which was terrific, stating that the state of Florida would not spend a cent on critical race theory, which is one of the components of this, what I call mental vomit.
Wow. Absolutely. I mean, I was going to pull up the article on the segregation, and we can talk about this for a second. I mean, when this came across my desk, and I'm seeing this, and the first hint I got of it is I'm hearing it wrong. I'm not reading it right. That can't be the case. After all,
you were surprised by the segregated graduations? They've been doing this for 2-3 years, and you know who spoke at the one at Harvard, right?
No, who? I mean,
Diana Presley.
Oh well, yeah.
Oh, in a very militant fashion too.
Well, you know, if you listen to a lot of people on the left, they are very militant in how they approach this, and I can't imagine that this is all going to turn out well, folks.
It's not right now.
Exactly. And the thing is, when you have people who are being aggressive and militant and starting to tell you that you are responsible for everything and you need to behave a certain way and take all the blame, there's going to be a tipping point, and there's a pushback point that will happen. It's human nature. And it's going to happen. I mean, there's nothing. It's just, how do you not think it's going to happen?
Well, they're agitating for that tipping point. That's the thing you have to realize.
Yeah, this is true.
They want. It's all about effectively treating us like we need to be cornered in the hopes that we lash out. And so that's actually, to the extent that we talk about how bad it is, we have to always keep in mind that violence is never the answer.
No, exactly. But we have the summer, Ken, of, and Joy Behar says Antifa doesn't even exist, by the way. It's just a right-wing talking point and conspiracy. She actually said this, right? And we've got...
there's somebody that never lives up to their first name.
No. The parents were so off on that one, huh?
And then there's another one at MSNBC that was misnamed.
Which one is that?
Joy Reid.
Oh, Joy Reid. Yeah, another Joy. You got it.
Amazing what a misnomer.
Yeah, because there's no joy there. This is for sure. No, it's a bad situation happening, and like you said, it's been happening for a few years. And it hasn't been on the radar screen for a lot of people, and I think it's starting to now. And like you said, you chewed out an alumni, and I think that there's a lot of alumni who are starting to catch on to this. And the scary part is there's a lot of alumni who do know what's going on, and they're okay with it. But
you know what it is,
what?
Joe? It's not that they're okay. They are fearful to standing up against it.
And that's very true. That is a huge problem, right? Because of the cancer culture. And we're back to this situation where, and it's not a matter, it's not liberals, because liberals, when I was growing up, a liberal was someone who wanted all kinds of debate and discussion, everybody to speak. They wanted to challenge everybody, right? They were on the outside. This group of people, these progressives and these militants that are in there today, it's you need to think how I think and speak how I speak, or you're not allowed to. It's not a okay, point for point, we'll have a debate, we'll have a discussion, and we'll see where that leads. It's we must silence you at all. And that's because when you start to break down their arguments point by point, they're done. So they can't allow their policies, their beliefs, their what they're demanding to be challenged, because it's not going to withstand the challenge, Ken.
Right. So
they can't win those arguments.
Name them. They're radical leftists They're not liberals.
Exactly. They're at the liberal, because liberals back in the day, right? The liberals were all about everybody speak, everybody has something to say, because they were considered, they were on the outside. They were being silenced by the mainstream media back in the 50s, right, into the 60s, and liberals were coming out of the 60s and 70s with challenging the wars and challenging the government, and that was healthy in the big picture. That was healthy, but that was also the era of Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and JFK for that matter, who were out there and who changed the world, and they did it peacefully, because the only violence that involved Martin Luther King was actually the government. It was the police who perpetrated the violence on those protesters. Today we're seeing this, Portland is burning on a nightly basis, right? When in the 2020 election, when they boarded up cities and stores, they didn't board it up because they thought Joe Biden was going to win. Why'd they board it up? They were afraid that Donald Trump was going to win. And what were we told by these people, Ken? If we don't get what we want, we'll burn it to the ground. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's not me saying it. That's coming from the Antifa leaders.
Well, here's a fascinating thing. You're describing back in the 60s, this peaceful movement by the movement at that time. They weren't all peaceful. You remember the Weather Underground?
No. There were factions that were violent, and we can get into some of the Black Panthers and say again.
Yeah, they were bombing public buildings.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, one of the women in charge of the Antifa fundraising killed a police officer in a bombing, right? And she's out.
Well, let me tell you a historical. There was a couple who were arrested as part of the Weather Underground, and they were sent to prison for life. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The son of that couple is now the San Francisco DA, who remembers as a child visiting his parents and is now trying to destroy our legal system by refusing to enforce the simple things that you described, the simple crimes that you described earlier.
Yeah.
That's how we got here.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Ken, I got to run because we've got some lines backed up here, so let me move on. 508-871-7000. Caller, are you on the air?
Jeremiah.
Hey, Jeremiah. Thanks for calling.
How you doing?
Good.
You're talking about the left trying to control the narrative and the conversation and everything else. They're also trying to control our past.
Good point, right? Rewriting history.
They are rewriting history. Right now, I wrote a book called Crispus Attucks, Recollections of a Colonial Agitator. And in my book, I relied heavily on a text that I was a traveling salesman, all my life. And 20, 30 years ago, Lorenzo Sabine's book, Loyalists of the American Revolution, was in every library I went to, every different town I've been to. Today, it's only in one library, the Worcester Public Library. 2 texts that I donated to them about 7 or 8 years ago. And the only reason they want that gone is because many of the loyalists had one of 3 things in common. They either graduated from Harvard University, Yale University, or King's College, the modern-day Columbia. And you can't promote experts if those people are on the wrong side of history. It teaches you a good lesson. You could have been very well educated back then and all the rest of it, but you could still be on the wrong side of history.
Right.
And I don't think that's I haven't noticed any other books that are missing, but I'm sure there are. I think people are going into the libraries and taking them out and getting rid of them. I just, if you look in the MAR system,
they're doing that, right? But also, we even worse, Jeremiah, is that we have publishers who have decided to stop publishing the books.
Well, that's why Jeff Bezos won't publish my book either.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a scary thing. I mean, what's worse, burning a book or just never allowing it to be made in the first place?
Well, Bezos refused to print my book because the computer files were not good, and I was in the graphics business for 3 years, I think, and I had I hired a top-notch graphics guy to put my files in order. I hired a proofreader and all the rest of it, and I had Steuben Press publish 50 copies of it, so it can easily be published.
And what's the name of the book again, Jeremiah?
Crispus Attucks, The Recollections of a Colonial Agitator.
Can you do me a favor? Can you send that information to the show's email, JoeMShow@gmail.com?
Okay, I'll send you the what do you call it? The
media kit.
Yeah, PDK. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
PK. Listen. The other thing too is I'd like to read something to you. I don't think we're taking this challenge on too seriously. And I'd like to quote a famous Republican from way back when.
Sure.
His name was Frederick Douglass.
Yep.
Okay. And he made this speech at Canandaigua, New York, and it was a celebration of the August 1st, 1834 emancipation of slaves in the British West Indies. Okay? So that's where the context is coming from. And this is a quote it's in my book. I use it as a 4-leader for a chapter, but you're not going to see it again because I don't think that the left wants people to read this kind of stuff. Okay.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Get ready to shut me off now.
Yeah. Just as long as if you don't use the 7 words I can't allow on the air, that's fine. I don't censor that.
I don't think. Well, one of them might be Republican. Okay. Here we go. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are men who would who want crops without plowing up the ground, rain without thunder and lightning. They want the concerns withheld, the awful rear of its many waters. They're often. I'm sorry. My glasses aren't great here. This struggle may be a moral one, and it also may be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without demand. Okay, it never did, and it never will. Find out what people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be impressed upon them. And these will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows, and with both. Okay?
Quietly submit to.
What's that?
That stuck out to me. Quietly submit to.
Yeah, that part. You want me to read that again?
Yeah, because, see, I think that's a very key thing, because are we not, in some way, a level here, being tested to see what we will quietly submit to at this time?
Yes, I think so. And I think, power concedes nothing without demand. Let me just get back to that same page here. Is there somebody there that can give me an address? The email address is what?
Email address, JoeMShow@gmail.com.
JoeMShow.
Yep. We've got about a minute here before I get a break for the top of the hour. But yeah, that email address is great for anything, and anyone who wants to send something to me, you can use JoeMShow, all one word, JoeMShow @gmail.com.
Okay. You want me to read the couple of sentences there?
Yeah, you got about 30 seconds, and we're going to break. You can hold on for the break, but go ahead. You got about 30 seconds.
Power concedes nothing without demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out what people will quietly submit to, and you have found the exact measure of injustice and wrong, which will be imposed upon them, and they will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows, or with both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress.
All right. Jeremy, hold on for 1 second because, folks, we do have to take a break here at the top of the hour, 7 o'clock. The Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop and Middlesex Mattress Outlets. Don't forget, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Stick with us. We'll be back in a moment.
508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
I want to tell you what Campiani Insurance...
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, talk radio is the immune system to the partisan, bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is your vaccine. Join me weekend mornings, 6 to 8.
If you were to ask any retiree in a word, they would tell you that retirement is all about income. Income in retirement is a permission slip to enjoy life. Income provides the freedom to spend money each month knowing that more will arrive next month and the month after that. As important as it is to accumulate assets for your retirement, it's equally, if not more important, to maximize the income being generated from your assets. My name is Jerry Doherty, and my radio program, Making Money Last, has been heard right here on WCRN.
To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
This is Sean Burke, President of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Sunday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
I want to tell you what Campiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Campiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
All right, folks, welcome back to Hour 2 of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Don't forget, we're on our affiliate stations as well, AM 730 WACE, and we are on the TuneIn app, so punch in WCRN on TuneIn, and you can take us anywhere streaming on all of your devices as we broadcast from the Boxtrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. And we do have a show email. I was just telling Jeremiah that. You can use it. It's called, it is, JoeMShow at gmail.com. JoeMShow at gmail.com, all one word. And our office line is also available to you at 508-603-9778. 508-603-9778. And, of course, you can text us at 617-297-8388. And a lot of you actually use the email associated with the text line, which is textjoeintheradio at gmail.com. Either one of them will reach the office eventually. One's meant for while we're on the air. And thanks to text 873, the 978. Kathy also getting your emails as well. Thank you very much. Actually, Jeremiah, did you stick with us?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. All right, so you're going to send me that information on the book. What made you write the book?
It's a funny story. Back in the 4th grade, I moved from a working class neighborhood to an upper middle class neighborhood, and the educational system was just I was way behind, and I joined up with a group of guys who were trivial hallway guys, which I did in my previous school, and that was one of the questions that was asked was who was the first American to die in the Revolutionary War. I'm dating myself. The guy said it was Chris Pasadix, and he was an Afro-American. So that was, you can guess how far back that is.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I said, I was kind of a naive kid, and I said to him, look, that can't be. And he goes, why? I said, because if that was true, we'd be all over it in American history class. And they kind of laughed. They were a little bit wiser than I was on the world and the rest of it. And I still said, you're dead wrong. This went against everything I thought of America and everything else like that. So he said, go look it up. And I went to my town library. It took me 4 hours to find a reference to him. And of all places, it was in the Encyclopedia Britannica. A research librarian put me onto and that's the only reference I saw. And oddly enough, in different years of the Encyclopedia Britannica, he was mentioned, he wasn't mentioned. He was mentioned, he wasn't mentioned. It was mentioned in a year when we were having that problem with the Europeans wanting to go over to the Middle East and taking the Suez Canal. And we said no. So they put that in there. Well, we'll show you. That's crazy. And
well, just as a side note, right? I remember because when I was a kid, my parents had that whole collection of the Encyclopedia Britannica. It was in a bookcase in our near the entrance to the living room, and I don't know where those books are. I wish we still had it because.
Well, they were bound like perfect leather. The most perfectly bound books I ever saw in my life.
Yeah, they were beautiful books. And, it was the type of thing that somebody was selling them door to door, right? Families would buy them, and that's what you used to do all your book reports and things of that nature. And, of course, my mother was, every time you don't ever say, I'm bored, because the first thing she would have done is she would walk over to the bookshelf and she'd pull a letter off and she'd say, read these today. So you never said I'm bored because she'd find something for you to do. But I would venture to say what's in those books aren't in the textbooks today, and probably aren't even on the internet.
What's funny too, though, is the politics at the time regulated the content of the Encyclopedia Britannica. If we were on good relations with England, they never mentioned Crispus Attucks. If we were in bad, well, they mentioned Crispus Attucks and identified him as a Negro, but that's what they called it back then. I mean, it's just
the terminology changed over what was acceptable to say. I mean, NAACP is referred to NAACP all the time. Nobody ever says the acronym out because it's not acceptable to use those terms today. And, that's why you don't see that anywhere.
Well, that's another way they're trying to control us as well. I mean, obviously.
The speech. I mean, it's very Orwellian, right? We're being limited to the words we're allowed to use, because if you limit our words, you limit our thoughts. And we're looking at the cancer culture who are now, and never mind cancer culture. Let's talk about for a moment the curriculums where we have schools teaching critical race theory, as well as the 1619 Project is actually being taught as a curriculum, which is asinine because it was a series of essays where the author themselves of the 1619 Project said, no, they're just essays. And for one thing, 1619, the United States of America didn't exist much. It wasn't even an idea in 1619, folks. So never mind, it has nothing to do with American history.
Well, the other thing, too, is, I mean, if you think about American education, one of their favorite things to do, it's their national pastime, it's bigger than baseball, is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, we had 2 wars against Germany, right? After the Second War with Germany, every curriculum in the United States of America said, we got to stop teaching Goethe. Now, Goethe was the greatest novelist that came out of Europe. He's better than, I read them all, and he's better than Dickens, he's better than all these other guys, better than Sheridan, he's better than anybody else, and very good. And in my education, I never touched Goethe. I had to read him outside of college. They wouldn't teach him in college. Now, the fact that we had 2 wars against Germany doesn't make Goethe any less of a major writer, and we should teach Goethe. That's it. I mean, there's no two ways about it. But no, we throw it out because we're going to show them. We're going to show them. We're going to be ignorant, just so we can do that. I mean, it's mind-boggling sometimes the way people react to this stuff.
Jeremiah, what do you think of this of the whole concept of universities and colleges having segregated by ethnicity, race, LGBTQ status, orientation, dorms, meeting rooms in fraternities, and even having multiple graduations based on those things?
I'm sure the Ku Klux Klan would endorse it.
Yeah, right. Except we find like at Elon University, they were going to actually have one of these meetings for white students, but it got canceled. All races and special groups on ethnicity or LGBTQ status can have special meetings, special orientation, special dorm rooms and meeting areas, except for white students, because that crosses the line.
Well, and if they cross the line into and try to integrate, what should we do with them? Lynch them?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. What is the punishment for this, and why is this a good idea? No, I hear no. And I'm sorry, folks. I did not. Apparently, universities have been doing this for a few years.
Yeah.
It's only come to my attention very recently.
Only because you didn't expect them to do that.
Well, I wouldn't be looking for that because. But you know what? I should have known something was up and looked, because for the last few years, what have I seen? I have seen them shut down and cancel out people like Candace Owen, Ben Shapiro from speaking. Right? D'Souza. These are people who obviously they don't fall into the the speech, the accepted speech that they have. They challenge their premises, and they don't. And this is the thing that really bothers me, folks. Right, Jeremiah? Colleges, universities are supposed to be absolutely open to debate, where ideas are flying all over the place, and everybody gets to challenge you, and you're challenged, and this is where it is all supposed to happen. But no, we are a closed environment. In order to pass through this invisible barrier of campus life, here is the indoctrination.
Protect my agenda.
This is the narrative. This is the agenda. This is what you're allowed to believe, not speak about, but you need to believe this, and this is what you have to do. So when a Candace Owens shows up or Ben Shapiro shows up, they go off.
A breath of fresh air. Aren't they a breath of fresh air?
They are, absolutely.
Because everything else I hear is just nonsense.
And there
are two sexes and a hermaphrodite. I'm sorry, that's it. Point blank, okay?
See, now,
49, 50, this Heinz equation of sexuality, 57 varieties, is baloney, okay? And I do not have to accept that as fact. It's biological misnomer. I mean, let's face it.
Well, here's something, because on that debate, right, we have the debate in the LGBTQ community, LGBTQ plus community, and they want to say, okay, there are multiple genders. And yes, and you and many scientists and doctors say, well, and Ben Carson has said this, because there are only two genders. I can prove it to you scientifically. But we are to accept what somebody decides to identify as. See, that's the key word here, Jeremiah, is identify. Now, does that change the physiology of them? No, it doesn't. I mean, that is still it. Do I understand that sometimes a biologically born male, in their persona and their feeling in their mind, they are female, and that's what they think they should be, and that happens, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And if that person wants to be who they are in their mind, that's okay. But does that actually physically change the chromosomes in your body? No, it doesn't. And that also leads to the discussion that we've had. And a couple of weeks ago, I had Deborah Druin, who actually teaches corporate America these things. She's a big trans activist. And we talked about the issue going on with sports, because we see some states now, governors are putting into law or executive order that biological males can't compete in female sports. We had the three college now, but they were high school females who sued the state of Connecticut that biological males were competing in female sports. Now, here's the thing on that. At that level, and I'm talking about high school folks, is that there are no tests, right? When you get to Olympic level and professional level, everybody, there are actually screening done. And if you go through the transition process, the medical transition process, right, to go from female to male, that would be called trans male. So when you talk about a trans folks, you always put the gender in which they are transing to. So transgender male is a biologically born female transitioning to female. And at that point, they do go through the process where they have hormone therapy and estrogen. And what happens is they physically, through medications, bring their either testosterone levels or estrogen levels to the gender they desire. But in the high school level, if you are physically a 17-year-old male and you have those hormone levels in the muscle mass of a 17-year-old male, but you just simply identify as a female, that does not change your physical muscle mass and testosterone levels to that of a 17-year-old female. So on the reality of it, folks, is that 17-year-old female is competing with a 17-year-old male, even if he's identifying as female and dresses as a female, like plays the role. It is, and I know that's not the right term, I'm going to get static for that, but I'm trying to make a point, is that you are competing. And the argument that I got back from the activist Deb Drew on this was, but high school's all about learning how to lose, isn't it? And that's the lessons that we have to take.
How to cope with defeat? What you're saying? Yeah,
how to cope with defeat, but isn't that kind of saying I'm going everything you're going to compete at? I'm going to have my thumb on the scale, so you learn a lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have that issue that people have to deal with in that. But that being said, look, if you are transitioning, if you feel you were born in the wrong body, that happens in life, folks. That happens in life. People, mentally you're a male in a female body, and vice versa. That happens. And when you come to a certain age, I think you take the steps that you want to take and change your life. But when you get to like Olympic levels and so forth, and you're competing as a female, you have to have certain, they check your hormones. But in the high school level, that's not happening. So is it fair to allow what is, for all scientific matrices, a 17-year-old male person on the same playing field as a 17-year-old female, biological female? That's in essence saying, hey, the boys can compete on the girls' team.
What are the chances of you getting canceled if you bring this up?
They're trying to cancel me every week. That's a constant thing here for me. I'm constantly being attempted to be canceled.
50 ways to leave your lover, 50 ways to get canceled. I mean, and all you got to do is disagree with them on one issue, and you're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep, it happens all the time. All right, Jeremy, thank you for the call. That was good stuff. Send me an email with that information.
Well, actually, if you could you give me the address of the station? I'm going to send you a hard copy to prove that this book exists and that it can be published with my files. Okay.
Sure. It's WCRN.
Hold on, let me get a pen here. Okay. And what's the address?
276, I think. Yeah, 276 Turnpike. And that's Westboro, and I don't know if I have. Let me see if I
can find it. So
we're online. I can give you a PO box if you want.
Okay, if you want.
Yeah, this is to Cameo Media, folks. So if you want to ever mail anything, it's PO Box 435.
435.
Worcester, Mass. 01613.
01613. 13.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, Joe. Take care now.
Thank you, Jeremiah. All right, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available. Again, 508-871-7000. Our text line is 617-297-8388 as we broadcast from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlets. Let's check the text line. Trans activists love it. Add it to Webster's. Trans activists. All right. What else do we have going on? College and universities are racist. Well, civilized America supports America as a melting pot. Colleges and universities support a salad bowl, appreciate our differences, and realize it sounds nice until you realize what it means. Long game discrimination, creating discord, fear, and what we are seeing today. Thanks for those texts. Again, 617-297-8388 is how you join the conversation, or how you text into the show. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. All right, let me go to the phones again. Good morning, caller. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Mark in Worcester. I could tell by the voice.
Very interesting guest you just had on.
Actually, it wasn't a guest. That was a caller. That was not planned whatsoever, Mark. And he may end up being a guest. Once I get the book and read it and check it out, he may actually end up being a guest.
Very knowledgeable person. Entertaining, knowledgeable. Yeah, that'd be a good idea to have him on as a guest. Hey, I wanna, everything what you guys were talking about, about the world being broken down by gender and race. There seems to be an obsession with it.
Yeah.
Not seems. There is an obsession with it. That being said, could you or anybody tell me if you look at the world's population and you break it down not by ethnicity but by race, what percentage of the world's population is Caucasian? I believe it's significantly below 20%. If you looked it up, you'd be shocked.
Yeah.
How low the white population of planet Earth is. If you look at a pie chart, it's broken down by race.
Oh, absolutely, and in all Caucasian. I mean, the thing in this world today, what bloodline is pure? I mean, this is the irony, Mark, that a couple of weeks ago, right, when this whole Harry and Markle interview and all this bull came out with the royal family, I was sitting there watching this and thinking to myself, has anybody just stopped for a second to realize what you're criticizing is the House of Windsor, a monarchy which by definition is all about the purity of bloodline? In other words, the crown, the power, the land, everything passes strictly through bloodline. And it's important that the bloodline stays pure, or at least that the family bloodline, the House of Windsor, is there. So,
you know that most of the House of Windsor they're of German descent.
Yeah, there's a lot of, including Prince Philip, of course. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about. You got to remember, if we go back to the House of Windsor 1,000 years, you got to remember
you
that.
You don't have to go back that far.
No, but I'm saying the point is that for centuries, they would only marry other noble. In other words, so you would marry a prince or princess of the House of Windsor would only marry royalty of German or French or Nordic.
In other words, what you're saying in a nice word, most of the European aristocracy are inbred.
Absolutely, yeah. That's my point. Is you would only marry which is why it's often you would be marrying your second cousin or something, because it was all about consolidating power, keeping thrones, keeping peace among kingdoms, but also keeping the power in the same family. So you were married off to your second cousin or first cousin once removed. That was just commonplace in those days. And it was all about the preservation of the bloodline.
Queen Elizabeth, she was descended from, it just came to me, from the German Saxe-Gotha. That was the name of where her bloodline comes from in Germany. Saxe-Gotha. They're not English at all.
Well, the thing is that she married Prince Philip, who was a Mountbatten, and that was a contention because Philip thought that their children would be Mountbatten, but of course, Parliament and Churchill.
Mountbatten is a made-up name, just like House of Windsor is a made-up name.
But they're all made up.
They're all Germans.
They're all made up. I mean, House of Windsor is how they consolidate that bloodline is considered the House of Windsor, and they make up. I mean, everything's made up, right? The titles. The Queen, one of the few powers the Queen has left is she can bestow titles. Those aren't automatic, right? People think automatically you're a prince. No, the Queen has to give you those titles. So when Markle came up with this whole thing about they weren't going to title Archie, well, Archie isn't entitled to a title, only if the Queen feels like giving it to him. He's not in the succession. You see what I'm saying? He's not born into the succession because of the brother that exists. Harry, his brother and entire line would have to be wiped out before it would go to him. So Archie is just he's a royal baby, but he doesn't get it. So all of this hoopla over this interview and everything was just so ridiculous to me that people were getting upset. And then the fact that, Piers, and I never thought that I would ever defend Piers Morgan, but all he did was say, I don't believe Markle. I think she's lying. And that they treated like it's a crime against the crown. But she lied. She talked about being married 3 days before the $30 million wedding. And the bishop said that's a 100% lie. So we already know she is, in fact, a liar. And to throw it out an accusation, because if the queen is the queen of the entire kingdom, which, do you know how many Muslims and blacks and Indian are in the British Empire? I mean, she is queen over probably more non-white than she is white.
Yeah, well, she's not going to tell you that.
No? Well, they're not going to tell you that.
Well, you know, she's obsessed. All of the royalty, they're obsessed with bloodlines and genetics. You know that, right?
Of course they are, because it's all based on their bloodline. That's
right.
That's how they exist, folks. Okay. Hey, Mark, we're against the clock here for the bottom out. Thank you very much. Always a great call. And yeah, Jeremiah, I'm looking forward to the book, and we may have you back on to discuss the book in detail at some point. But anyway, folks, we're going to take a break here from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet for the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We'll be back with the final segment in just a moment. So stick with us.
508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
Hey, folks, Joe Mangiacotti here. You might have been Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and you might have picked up on the fact that I've recently moved and was taking the time to purge the clutter and freshen up some of the furniture and decor. And there is no better item to freshen up than your bed. That's right, your bed is the most important piece of furniture you have. After all, you spend more than a third of your life on it. I checked out the huge, once family-owned stores with tens of thousands of square feet of showroom and warehouses and movie theaters and food courts and shows and the overhead that goes with them. But then I discovered a true family-owned shop. John Rosenfeld and his son have a small showroom and warehouse right in Metro West, 50 Main Street, Ashland. John and his family are actually there in person. They do keep hours, but will meet you by appointment. That's right. John will meet you when it's convenient for you. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own and a power base that moved the head and feet, but then I met John and checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com and ended up with a better mattress and power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Box Drop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts and buys directly from the manufacturer with low overhead and just family employees, passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9309. That's 508-579-9309. And find John on Facebook at Box Drop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com. Good afternoon and welcome to Case Files from the LPDAM, where we take a look at actual cases, the law, and lessons from the findings, and where we share the experiences of the experts of the Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and joining us this week is Sean Burke, president of the LPDAM and resident manager of Courtside Legal Investigation. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Joe.
Welcome back to Case Files.
I love to be here.
Well, Sean, I was always wondering how or why people commit crimes. I know that's really deep, but stick with me here. And I know that there's no one answer to that, or it would be solved, right? We would have figured it out and fixed it. However, in your opinion, is it an institutional issue, or is it a type of personality, or is it just by circumstances that they are committed?
Well, first of all, Joe, you're right. There is no one answer to such a complex issue of why certain people are more prone to committing crimes. With that said, it is a combination of many factors that contribute to a reason why someone may or may not commit a crime. Some of these variables can change or be altered through innovative techniques that may work within an individual's personal environment. I think my pilot social work program is providing concepts that can become reality. These defendants are worth our investment to have less victims in our society. Joe, as part of the social work program, we work with many repeat offenders, the district court level. We are seeing similarities within this population, which I believe can help lower recidivism rates. A large majority of our clients are intellectually challenged or have mental health issues that often affect their response to a particular situation that results in a criminal complaint. Identifying these similarities allows us to move to the next step. Narrowing down the societal and institutional connections to a particular individual helps us gain trust with moving our client forward in a positive direction. The root to many of the criminal allegations are directly associated with the criminal's responses to heightened situations that are often caused by themselves. It sounds complicated, Joe, but we have proven crime can be curbed. It is an awesome feeling.
Well, Sean, I would say so. And it's amazing that you are seeing such positive results. Is it fair to say that you're customizing these services for each defendant?
It is exactly what we're doing. And with an 84% success rate, it's undeniable. Our measurement is simple, Joe, but hard with individuals who have a history of repeatedly committing crimes to keep them off the dockets for a 6-month period. Many have drug and alcohol issues that often stem from their mental health issues. More than 25% of our clients to date have been homeless. We help them build their confidence, acquire housing, and receive services necessary to respond better to high anxiety situations. It is these life skills that provide the tools to curb future crime and allow the person the strength to be a contributor in our society. Joe, most of the social work clients receive positive outcomes because the court sees the benefits of allowing a defendant to better themselves. If the person can stay off future criminal dockets, then we have less victims in our society. It's a win-win scenario. It is also important to note, Joe, that many of our social work clients receive other services that we work in conjunction with, such as investigative services. This combination is quite powerful in the courtroom. At lpdm.org, we offer a wide range of talent within the legal support service industry. I am just one of many who provide honest, quality work to our customers. Remember, you're in good hands with LPDM.
You certainly are, Sean. Thanks for stopping by Case Files again.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for joining us for Case Files from the LPDAM. Join us here each week, Sunday mornings at 7:30 on AM 830 WCRN and online anytime at LPDAM Case Files. Visit us at lpdam.org, and you can find LPDAM on Facebook and Twitter at PINMass, and of course anytime at 800-955-6274. For Sean Burke, I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This is Find a Forever Home for Teddy's Friends, brought to you by the Cantiani Insurance Group with locations at 318 Plantation Street and East Douglas Insurance. This week's candidate comes to us from Buddy Dog in Sudbury. You should get to know Scooby. He is a handsome young goofball from South Carolina. He loves everyone he meets, humans and pups alike. He does like to play hard, so roommates of any species will need to be sturdy and confident enough to handle him. So a large fenced-in yard would be a pretty good thing for Scooby. He would not do well in a small home or apartment. He's a 2-year-old neutered male, unknown breed mix, about 70 pounds but a healthy weight. He was found as a stray in South Carolina. He is food motivated and he does know sit, so training will be pretty easy and some basic obedience training is recommended. Again, Scooby comes to us from Buddy Dog in Sudbury. For more on Scooby, check out Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page for links and pictures and of course information how to visit and maybe even adopt Scooby and bring him home to his new forever home. Find a Forever Home is brought to you by Cantiani Insurance Group with locations at 318 Plantation Street and East Douglas Insurance and anytime at 508-791-2088.
All right, folks, welcome back to the final segment of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. And don't forget, you can reach the show off here at JoeMShow at gmail.com. We're also streaming on the TuneIn app at WCRN. Tell Alexa to play WCN. She'll do it with no questions asked. And we are streaming, by the way, on the Facebook page. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. Joe Mangi Show. That's our tag for all of our social media, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. And the important thing is that there is the audio stream on the Facebook page, so you can listen in a multitude of ways. I did want to get on and talk to you about the border situation. And you know, I think it was Jen Psaki slipped up and actually referred to it as a crisis. And reporter jumped on, oh, okay, it's a crisis. No, it's still supposed to be a situation that they're dealing with. Now, under the Obama administration, they defined it as a crisis when it reached 1,000 people. We're into multiple thousands of people a day crossing. We're on track for 200,000 illegal people crossing in a month. But it's causing a lot of problem. Right? This wave of people, migrants that are coming across the border. Now, there's a lot of moving parts to this. And I talked about this before. So you got to remember, just over here, put in your mind that this $1.9 trillion recovery package, now it was built to us as a COVID relief package with about 9% of $1.9 trillion actually dealt with direct stuff for the COVID situation. And don't forget that we hadn't spent all of the money from the first $1 trillion package. It's still sitting there. So a lot of what this $1.9 trillion was, or is, I should say, not was, is a lot of bailout money for blue states. A lot of it. Billions of dollars. And a lot of pork. And stuff that had absolutely nothing, like I said, nothing to do with COVID, 9%. But this is a way to funnel billions of dollars into blue states. And then a lot of that money is getting trickled down to NGOs. And an NGO is a non-government organization. So that had to happen at the same time all of the policies that were in place to deal with the border, which Trump had put into place, and that the White House, current White House, continually and consistently tells us was a mess. It's a lie. It's a straight-out lie, folks. Whether it's Psaki or Pelosi talking about inheriting a broken system. Folks, it was the first time in a long time that the border was at some level under control. And the drug cartels and the governments to ourselves, they were, I think, in a combination of fearful and respected Trump, regardless of what the media tries to tell you. Because he put it straight out there, and they believed him, that he was going to classify these cartels as terrorist groups. And they know that if that was to be done, the rules change. They change, folks. If they're classified terrorists, they're no longer just criminals, and we're no longer fighting them with Border Patrol, rules change. There's none of that other stuff that can go away. We're talking black holes with Guantanamo Bay, and they don't want to play on those rules because that's how they operate. And they don't want America operating like a cartel. So they had a healthy respect and fear for Donald Trump that they, the media, will not tell you about or admit to it. But they do. And they rejoiced when Joe Biden was sworn in. And the first thing he did, just because, combination here, but just because Trump had it in place, he had to undo it. But there was more to it than just that. So remember that $1.9 trillion and that money trickling down to the non-government organizations. Well, why is that? A lot of that is earmarked to resettle immigrants. But they needed the border open. And they needed this influx of future Democratic voters to come in. But what it's doing, these waves of people, it's a drain on services. It's a drain on school systems. It's a drain across the board. Now remember, most of these migrants do not speak English. They're coming in, they will take low-paying jobs, will hurt the U.S. job market. But who likes illegal aliens coming in? A lot of the big corporations. And unlike what you learned or thought or were taught when you were younger and growing up, right? Republicans are the big, wealthy, corporate America, cold-hearted, business people that hate the poor and hate minorities, which is all hogwash. But big corporations who are Wall Street and are the majority donors for the Democrats and are Democrats themselves, they like the low wages. They really do. They like the pool of cheap labor that they get. So you have waves of people coming in. They don't speak English. They're draining the services. And that, I mean health services, housing, school systems. And they're coming in and they will get these jobs. And they will work for less. And corporations like that. And then they send a lot of the money home. Now, trust me, I am the last guy in the world that is ever going to tell anybody, once you've earned $1, what you can do with that dollar. None of my business. And if you want to send it back to your home, whether it be Guatemala, El Salvador, I don't care. That's your money. But the point is, was it legal dollar in the first place? And if you entered the country illegally, you broke a law. You're a criminal. And if you are working and getting paid, it's illegal earnings. If you just follow the thread, folks. Because either the company knowingly hired an illegal alien who's not authorized to work in this country, or they used a phony ID. Therefore, identity theft was here. But see, identity theft doesn't count when the person committing it is an illegal alien. If you or I were to borrow somebody's information and open a credit card, say with that identity, and charge up a few $1,000s and walked away from it, oh, that's all kinds of crime and going to jail for that. And now on top of just the wave of people and the issues that cause, we have the issue of the minors. There are unaccompanied minors coming. And these terms are misleading because, you know, we were lectured for 4 years under Trump about ripping children away from their parents' arms, but that we have all these unaccompanied minors. Well, which one is it? They can't be both unaccompanied and being ripped away from their parents. If they're ripped away from their parents, it wasn't America doing it. They were ripped away by the cartels, or their own parents sent them over the line, the border. So Biden's policies and this whole, now he's saying don't come, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, don't come yet. His border policies, he's pushing thousands of teenagers into the hands of brutal cartel smugglers. So the American government is aiding and abetting human trafficking, child and sexual abuse. If you follow the thread, you have to understand what they go through. And you can find, as a matter of fact, I'll get it up on Joe Mangiacotti Show Facebook page, where you can see former cartel smugglers. And they'll tell you about how the business, how it worked, and the brutality of it. But now you've got children that are being used by the cartel to infiltrate the country, and they're indebted to the cartels, folks. Don't for a minute think that this isn't what's happening. Their families are still back in their homeland, and the cartels know who they are, and they need to perform on this side of the border. And the Border Patrol will tell you they're getting the same minors over and over again, meaning they get through, they do what they're supposed to do, they go back over, they come back again. And Biden has put a gag order on the border. All ride-alongs have been canceled. All media has been turned down. Remember, the media got into these centers under the Trump administration, and this is where we first saw the images of the cages. Of course, what they didn't tell you at the time they published those under President Trump's administration is that those cages were actually built, and those pictures were taken in 2014 under the Obama administration, the Obama-Biden administration. So this plight of young migrants coming to America, and the majority of these minors are young men between 15 and 17. Perfect recruiting and operational age for MS-13 and cartels. But what's happening, right? What is going on? And this is corporate welfare, right? You want to talk about corporate welfare. So here we have taxes are going to go up because of $1.9 trillion in spending, the overall spending. That money trickles down to blue states, makes up for their mismanagement, right, to cover their defaults. And then a lot of that money is trickled into the non-government organizations whose purposes are to help resettle and accumulate these illegal immigrants who have gotten into the country. And then they are available to work at lesser wage than Americans would work for, benefiting corporate America. Isn't that corporate welfare? It's a long way around, but it's all by design. And it's overwhelmed. Governor Abbott was on the television these last couple of days talking about the 3 detention centers in Texas that we're not allowed to see. But the conditions have been leaked out, and they're horrible, and that's why no cameras are allowed in there. Biden doesn't want to see images on the news of teenagers and children sleeping on concrete floors, going days without showers, and drinking water undrinkable. And these are the conditions in these centers in Texas. So what are they doing? They're loading them onto buses and shipping them literally around the country. And you have to say, well, where are they sending them to? They're putting them on buses and planes, and they're sending them to New York, Chicago, Houston, Tallahassee. And these kids, a lot of them, I mean, they're traumatized. They don't speak English. And they're not even tested for COVID-19. That's a problem. We know it's at least 10% positive. We've got the president of Trailways and bus companies. They know what they're doing. They're actually paying for the testing because they don't want to put COVID-19 positive people onto their buses to spread among everybody on a bus as those buses go all over the country. And they're going to get to these cities, and they're going to cripple the school systems, and they're going to be a drain on the resources, which is why the Biden administration made sure that we passed $1.9 trillion under the pretense of COVID, but it was really to get this money to the non-government organizations so that they could settle the immigrants, which will benefit corporate America for low-wage employees, corporate America, corporate welfare here. And they're positive, and the infection will continue. And statistically, we know that most won't graduate high school and that they'll live on the poverty line, which means that they will require entitlements from the taxpayers. They're going to stress out the healthcare sector, the housing market, and the police departments and fire departments. Remember, when there is a non-organic influx of population into any community, it stresses everything. From police and fire coverage to the school systems, which will be swelled up. And then, on top of all that, because English isn't the primary language or might not even be spoken at all, we have to spend money on bilingual classes and tutors and translators. Again, more stress. But Biden's taking care of that with the $1.9 trillion being trickled down. Even the sanitation and the sewage department get overtaxed because the community didn't organically grow. I remember, dealing with local politics in Natick and seeing, watching the birth rate in the population as kindergarten got larger in its ranks. Instantly, town officials said, we've got 10 years to make sure the high school can handle a larger class. We have to start building a high school now or adding on to it. That's organic. That all happens organically. A recent article in Newsweek has to deal with a very large hotel industry executive who hated Trump, didn't like his borders at all. He's one of the wealthiest men in the world. And he hated Trump because the guy was complaining that the stronger border policies were making him pay American workers a higher wage than he had to. And we're talking about, the bitching was about having to pay Americans $20 an hour versus illegals at $18 an hour. So it wasn't even a huge difference. But you take that $2 an hour times 40 and then times hundreds or thousands of employees, it starts to add up to some money. While small businesses and tens of millions of Americans were still dealing with the pandemic, the losses from the pandemic and businesses that have closed, and these wealthy Democratic donors and their political puppets are still looking for that foreign labor. And then the bonus to all this is they'll resettle the illegal population, by no mistake, into red states. They want to dilute the red states. They want to turn them purple, if not to blue. That's all part of the big plan. Every major business and financial leader in the country that support the Democratic Party, they just love illegal immigration. For the simple reason their livelihoods are subsidized by that illegal immigration. Well, the illegal aliens themselves are subsidized by the taxpayer. It's a redistribution scheme. From the poor to the rich, more immigration means lower services for citizens. But see, if you say you want a secure border and higher paying jobs for America, i.e. America First policies, and are against Central American children being trafficked in drug cartels that are obscene profits from not just the actual humans they traffic, folks, but from the fentanyl and the drugs. Your compassion for those people is called racism or unpatriotic by the liberal ruling class who profit from illegal immigration at the expense of American citizens. That's the game that's being played. And you shouldn't be afraid or ashamed to call it out for what it is. Now, Governor Abbott he sees what's going on. He sees the left that wants to turn Texas blue. So what they're doing about it, and he's already begun to do, is he launched something called Operation Lone Star. And he's deploying 1,000 Texas Department of Public Safety officers as well as 1,000 National Guard to the border. And this is what he's doing it for. Because, see, the cartel's involved in bringing people across the border. The surge, it occupies the Border Patrol. And it's by design that it does that, to occupy them so that they can, well, you're occupied over here, we're bringing drugs and people across the line over here. So Texas has got to stop it and fill the gap in with their own public safety officials, which is another way of saying Texas Rangers are police, by the way. And those 3 holding facilities in Texas, they're awful. But I got to tell you, we're out of time for this edition.
Word of mouth, website reviews. How do you know who to hire? Welcome to WCRN's Best in Business list. Simply visit WCRNradio.com and hit the big red button. There you'll find caring, trusted, and certified professionals ready to help you, complete with phone number and a link to their website. Finding the right certified professionals ready to help you has never been easier. WCRN's Best in Business list. The best way to find the certified professionals you can count on when you need them most. Find reliable local professionals like G&M Pavement Maintenance. Keep your pavement safe and avoid costly repairs. Bob Martell at Positive Results Hypnosis. Let Bob help you lose weight, quit smoking, or reduce stress. Or John the Roofer. Over 65 years of solving your roofing needs while delivering excellent service. See the complete Best in Business list at WCRNradio.com. From your full-service radio, AM 830 WCRN. You just may have the best podcast anywhere.
Blah, blah, blah.